So thank you very much for that nice introduction and the invitation to come here and speak on this wonderful and exciting event. So we've seen already our brain, and our brain is organized so that the different parts of the brain are responsible for different types of activities. So for example, if we're exposed to visual stimuli, the visual cortex will process that information and we will have increased activity in this region. While as, for example, if we talk or if we read something, we will have increased activity in the language regions of our brain. So we've seen already MRI scans of our brain, and for conventional MRI, we will get the answer, what does it look like? So you can see this is a cross-section of our brain, and we see very nice structures of the gray and white matter. With functional MRI, which is the study where we're working, we can also get the answer, as we already heard in the previous talk, how does it work? So we can study not only how the brain looks, but also how it works, and if there are any problems. So we've heard already a little bit about FMRI. I'm going to explain very simple how it works. As I already told you, when we're exposed to visual stimuli, the visual cortex will respond to that stimuli, and we will get increased activity in that region. So if this type of exposure is done inside the MR scanner, so for example, this type of visual stimuli can be provided on a small screen inside this goggle, which then the subject in the scanner is seeing, then we can detect this type of increased activity in the brain using FMRI. So FMRI, or bold FMRI, is a special type of MR sequence, and after doing post-processing, we can see this very nice increased signal in that region of the brain, which is corresponding to the visual cortex. So with this technique, as we already saw an example of, we can map different regions of the brain. So we have here the area that is active if we move our toes, our fingers, our tongue. Here is the visual stimuli. And we have also a specific region for auditory stimuli. And we have the language regions, different types of language regions that can be mapped using this type of MR technique. And we saw already in the previous talk that this can be used, is used a lot in research to find out a lot of different and exciting things about different types of diseases, etc. But it can also be used for helping the individual patient at the clinic. So for example, for a patient that needs to have brain surgery because of a brain tumor or any other type of brain abnormality, for example, sometimes used in epilepsy or arteriovenous malformation, etc. So this is a patient that has a brain tumor. This is a brain tumor. This is not normal brain tissue. So this patient is going to have brain surgery. And there are two things that are very, very important for this patient. First of all, we need to remove as much as possible of the tumor. So the neurosurgeons, they want to go in and remove the tumor. But it's also very, very important that the patient has a good quality of life afterwards. It doesn't really matter if you don't have a tumor, but if you, after the surgery, have major injury because of the surgery, so you're not able to speak, you're not able to move, you're not able to eat, you're not able to move your tongue, for example, you're not able to walk. So those things are the tough challenge for the neurosurgeons when they go in here to do this surgery, because they have to be aware of these factors. So in this case, what they did was to do a language mapping. So they found out that the language region of this patient is very, very close to the tumor tissue. So this is, of course, very valuable information for the neurosurgeon and, of course, for the patient, that the neurosurgeon is careful in this region so that he doesn't damage the language region, so that the patient is able to talk after the surgery. This is yet another example. We see here the tumor, and we see the functional area of finger tapping in this case, quite close to the tumor. So with this information, the neurosurgeon can better plan the surgery and better perform the surgery without damaging those important functions for the patient. And of course, our entire brain is important for us, but there are some functions on some regions that are more important than others. So those can be mapped using FMRI. So that is that's the field that we work on. So we specialize in developing hardware and software for performing these type of analysis and investigations. So our headquarters is in Bergen, and this includes both management, but also all of production and all the development is done in Bergen. And we also have a sales and service office in Milwaukee, in the US, and in South Korea, and a distributor network worldwide. So these are our products. We have hardware products that can be used to deliver the stimuli, so to deliver the task, the stimuli, or the task that the patient is doing. It can be a language task, for example. So this is displayed on this hardware equipment, and we also have software equipment, both for presenting or choosing the different stimuli. So it's used during the acquisition of the MR scan and also post-processing. So what is so special about this equipment? This looks like quite ordinary headphones. This looks like a rather ordinary TV, although it's white and it's on a foot stand. So there is one very, very important thing that you already heard about. The MR scanner is a large magnet. So you cannot put normal equipment into the MR room. If you do, it might be quite dangerous. And this is, of course, puts quite strict demands on how to develop equipment that is supposed to work inside the MR scanner, because it cannot, of course, contain any metal, because we cannot end in this situation, and it also has to operate safely, so it has to work. The equipment itself has to work in the strong magnetic field without causing any disturbance to the MR scanner or the scans themselves. So this is our core expertise. So we develop these products that can work with advanced electronics displaying these tasks that the patient will do. So here we see the headphones and a visual system to display these type of tasks for the patient to do FMRI. So this was all started with a Bergen FMRI group. So Bergen FMRI group is led by Professor Kenneth Hugdal, who is here. This is an old picture. So they're very active, still very active in FMRI research. So they were very early in the world and the first in Norway to do FMRI in 1994. So they published a study giving visual stimuli, and this is published in 1995. So this is very, very early in the field of FMRI. Now, so at that time, they used some equipment that they had, which was quite primitive, and they, of course, had to be very careful not to be too close to this magnet, because it is a large magnet, and this is probably not MR compatible at all. So you see also here they have a mirror, so that the light from this lamp is flickering lamp light is displayed down to the subject in the scanner. So after a while, they found out that they needed to make more sophisticated equipment. So they started making the homemade equipment that was made by the research group into more sophisticated tools. So then, of course, someone thought, maybe also other research groups in the world would be interested in this kind of equipment, because FMRI is constantly growing as a field for research and also into the clinic. So that is how NordicNeuroLab was founded in 2001. So the first product was something called a sync box. It's a small but important piece of equipment helping to do FMRI because it synchronizes the scanner with the stimuli. Other equipments were added along the way, both hardware equipment and software equipment, and a lot of the software for post-processing is also developed together with Professor Atle Bjørnrud, who is here at Oslo University Hospital. So we've had a very nice growth in sales from the start, coming up to this last year, and we've had some important milestones along the way. For example, getting FDA approval on our equipment, which is of major importance when delivering medical equipment in the US market. We also have compatibility certificates with the major MR vendors, which is also very important. And we had also positive net profit last year, which is, of course, very good. So today, we have installations in more than 60 countries worldwide. So we're recognized in the market for providing high-quality products for FMRI. And we have collaborations with major corporations. And also very important when working in the medical field is to have ISO certificates and have regulatory approvals in those markets that are needed. So that is also something that we use a lot of our time on doing, because that's very, very research demanding, but also absolutely necessary, also in order for those large companies to evaluate us as a serious partner. So our customers, as you can see here, are a lot in Europe, also in US. A large market for us, it's also South Korea and Japan. And our customers are both university hospitals and private clinics, smaller hospitals, but also the major hospitals. So if we have a list here, this is the US News ranking of the top 10 cancer hospitals in the US. And out of these, we have 9 out of these 10 are our customers. So that is, of course, very good for us to know that they actually choose to use our equipment when they want to do FMRI or want to do research within perfusion or DTI or FMRI, for example, or want to use that in their clinical routine. So we are very active in the field, attending a lot of conferences, which is, of course, very important to meet new customers, but also very important to meet our current customers, because we have customers all over the world, and they typically attend these conferences, so it's very important that they can come here and meet with us and discuss our new products, for example, or if they have any questions. We're also very active in Bergen, developing new tools, new versions of our software and new hardware products for the future to help even to increase and help even more the patients that are benefiting from our equipment. We're also very active with customers. This is my colleague Anthony in the US office. He's doing an installation of 4 of these MR-compatible LCDs to a hospital, one of the most advanced hospitals in the world, which is the Brigham and Women's Hospital in Boston. They have, I think, more than almost 30 MR scanners on their campus, and this is used for MR intervention, which is combining surgery and MRI in the same room. And this is also another site. This is from St. Thomas in London, where they use our MR-compatible LCDs that are mounted in the ceiling on an arm that they can pull down to the table for performing intraoperative MRI, where they do the surgery at the same time as they do MRI to get continuous updates on their scans and on the patient situation. So we've come a long way since the start in 2001, gone from being a startup to becoming an established company. And we've also done a lot of investments in development. So it's a very exciting future for us. Going further with all of the products that we have so far, we have a lot of exciting new products in the pipeline. Just recently, we launched this new and very excited version of our oldest software, but this is a research platform for doing perfusion and other functional MR analysis. So that is very exciting. So we have a lot of plans for the future, which is very exciting. It's very nice to be able to work in such a field and being able to provide tools that we know actually help the patients and help the hospitals become more efficient, and to help the patients get more accurate diagnosis and better treatment. So we have plans both to enter into the current markets that we already are, but with new technology that are similar to what we have now. For example, looking at this huge field of traumatic brain injury, which is a large market and affecting many people, particularly in the US, but of course also in other parts of the world. MR intervention is something that is growing more and more, doing surgery while doing MRI. And also, if we look at this map here, we see this is the incidence and mortality of different types of cancers. We are here now working with the brain, mostly with the brain. But what we've seen here is also that there is a huge market for example, prostate imaging. And a lot of the tools that we have for brain can also directly more or less be used for prostate. So that is also something that we would like to explore in the future. So with that, I would like to end the presentation. And thank you for the attention.
Okay, we have a little bit of time, but some quick comments.
Yeah, first of all, you answered the question. I now have learned that if I should have a surgery in the future, I will do this first. That's good. 2 questions. The first of all the data that are being made every day, could you say something about how is that accessible? Because there is a lot of data and it could be interesting for research. I'm not sure if that is what you are doing, but it could be interesting to listen to your reflection about that. And the second one, the innovation process, it was impressive what you have achieved. But how are you actually working with the leading environment, the leading research teams, the leading users? How do you do it to be first with new products and services?
Okay, so the first question, for patient data, it's typically not used for research, but sometimes patients are involved in research projects. But the data for MRI is stored on those systems that they have for storing patient data, which is called PACS, which is archive for doing that, and they also have, but MRI data is handleable, I think. It's not that amount, but of course when the patient is, for example, a tumor patient might be into MRI several times, and you would like to have also all of those scans accessible, but that's handled by the systems that they have already at the hospital. So the second question, we have collaborations with a lot of research groups and hospitals. So that's one of the things that we do in order to, which is of course also very important. One thing is to provide the tools, the kind of new methods that are coming in the field, but another thing is actually to produce something that is useful for the daily routine or the researcher and develop it in the way that they would like to have it. So it's very important to have a very good dialogue with the customer to find out, okay, how do you actually want this? I know you want this kind of method, but how do you want it combined with all the other things that you have? And how can we make a good software for you or a good hardware equipment for you so that you're more efficient in your daily work? So that's something I would do a lot and work together with our customers. So we have a collaboration agreement, for example, with this one of those sites that I showed you, the Brigham and Women's Hospital in Boston. So they give us very valuable input. And of course, also very important to be present on conferences and present on and stay up to date with all the new technology, because MRI is a field that is growing so fast, and there's so much new technology. And of course, one thing is to new things that are coming in the research might not be useful in a clinic yet. But the thing is that once it is useful, we should have already developed it, right? So that's the challenge, is to find out when will it be useful in the clinic.